Hello and welcome to another Advanced Skeleton video. In this video we are going to take a look at a new feature, which is export to Unreal Control Rig. So we'll hop over to Advanced Skeleton and show you how we can take a Advanced Skeleton rig and export it into Unreal, and with the Unreal's control rig system. And for this demo, we'll be using the demo character called Conan. So to access this, you'll just go to demo section, choose Conan and hit open. So traditionally, the workflow for creating games has been to do all rigging and animation in Maya or other 3D packages, and then export to the game engine the deforming mesh with animation. Recently, Unreal started introducing its own rigging system, so that allows for users to start using other workflow, meaning the ability to apply animation in Unreal, or for just fine tweaking of animation. Now it should be noted that as the control rig system in Unreal is fairly new, it is not yet have all the abilities that Maya and other 3D packages have in terms of rig functionalities, particularly when it comes to various deformers. But I'm sure the upcoming versions of Unreal, we will see further improvements upon the control rig system. Also, I would like to note that this is the first version of the Advanced Skeleton 2 control rig exporter, so it is not exporting all the parts of the rig that you have in Maya. For example, the face setup is currently not exported. Likewise, the FK and IK blending systems are not exported. Now it can export both FK and IK, but it will export whatever you have currently set. So for this character, we're going to end up with IK for the legs and FK for the arms. If you wanted to export IK for the arms, you would just make sure to switch the arms over to IK before running the export. Now, as new versions of Advanced Skeleton will be coming out, we'll likely be seeing more of the Advanced Skeleton functions and features being able to export to control rig. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this Conan character exported over to Unreal along with a control rig. So first thing we're going to do is export the FBX, and we'll do that in here, the export sections. We'll hit FBX export. Now we can see we did get a couple of warnings here in the export. One of them is complex animation is baked. That's quite common. Basically, that's just telling us that the constraints on the deformation system are baked into animation curves. Now this other one is skin definition. It has some information in it trying to describe the issue, but basically the bind pose information is not stored in the same way in Maya and in FBX. So whenever you do come across this issue, what I recommend is that you run this function here called rebuild jag pose nodes. So let's go ahead and do that, and again run the FBX export. I'll overwrite the file, and we'll see that this time the skin definition warning is gone. Alright, so let's jump over to Unreal and import this FBX. And we get various input options. I'm going to keep this at default and say import all. There are some warning messages here on the input. Now these are mostly related just to the smoothing settings on the polygons. Not to worry much about this, we'll just close it. So here are all the nodes, and we could see that if we grab this one, skeleton mesh, we could drag and drop that into the scene, and we would have our character in Unreal. Now I'm going to delete that from the scene, because that's not what we're after here. We want to have the control rig version of this. Now to get that, the next thing we're going to do, jump back into Maya here, And next to FBX export, there's another option here that says control rig export. Again, there's the question mark button that'll give you additional information and help. Now, let's go ahead and run that control rig export. That's gonna bring up dialog and ask us where to save it and give it a name. And if we look in that folder now, you'll see we now have two files. We have the FBX file and we have a py Python file. So the next step is going to be to execute the Python file to create the control rig here in Unreal. And if we jump back to Maya, we can see that on the help image, it says the next step is right click on the skeletal mesh object and choose create control rig. All right, this is a skeleton mesh object. If I right click on this, you see there is no create control rig option. That's because the control rig plugin has not yet been loaded. So that's going to be the next step. To load this, it's under edit plugins. Now there are many plugins, so to find the right one, it's a quick way to do it is just to type in control and it finds the one called control rig here. So we want to turn on and enable that. Now in addition to that, you also need to load the Python plugin. So we'll type Python and make sure to turn on the enable checkbox for this one as well. And then for these plugins to take effect, we need to hit the restart now button. And now that Unreal has restarted, we can see that now we can right click and we'll find create control rig. Now that creates another node, which is the control rig node. Next thing we're going to do is double click on that to open it up. And we'll see that by default, the rig graph has no nodes and there are no rig controllers. It is just the geometry and the deformation skeletal system that's in there. Now, before we exit out of here, here's a step that will make the Python script execute a lot faster. So I recommend doing this. By default, there's an option that's turned on called auto compile. So we'll turn that off. And then we'll close this. Then we're going to execute the Python script on this control rig node. So we'll make sure it is selected. And then in the tools menu, we'll choose execute Python script. A quick note. If you are in Unreal 4, this option is actually located under the file menu. So it'll be choose file drop-down menu and then execute Python script. Unreal 5, the menu is under tools. So let's go ahead, execute Python script. We'll browse through a Python script we exported from Advanced Skeleton and run it. And that should run within a few seconds since we turned off auto compile, and we can now open the control rig node. And we have a control rig that very much resembles the Advanced Skeleton rig. And we can go ahead and test some of the controllers. So we can see that we have FK on all of the arms as well as on the fingers. And we have IK legs that we can move around, and they have these pole vector objects where the knee is pointing. And if you want to go ahead and start animating with this, you can just drag and drop that control rig into your scene, which automatically generates a new sequencer. And you're ready to start setting keys and animating. And that's it. We have our Advanced Skeleton rig brought over to Unreal here as a control rig. And as usual, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.